The evening had started like any other, at a small family-owned diner on the outskirts of the city. The neon sign flickered softly in the cold night, and the smell of fresh coffee and buttered toast lingered in the air. Inside, laughter and conversations hummed quietly, the kind of place where strangers became friends over a slice of pie. Among the regular customers sat a man whose face few recognized, though his name was one that echoed in boardrooms and financial markets around the world. He had slipped into the corner booth without much fuss, dressed simply in jeans and a jacket, not at all resembling the billionaire whose decisions had the power to shift economies. For him, this place was a sanctuary, somewhere he could sit unnoticed and observe life as it unfolded for ordinary people. The waitress who served his table was young, no older than her mid-20s, with a warm smile and eyes that held a quiet resilience. She moved from table to table gracefully, balancing plates of food while exchanging small jokes with the regulars. Despite the weight of exhaustion written in her posture, she radiated an aura of kindness. He watched her refill coffee cups and offer gentle encouragement to a tired truck driver, listened as she reassured a single mother struggling with 2 restless children, and noticed how she never once let her smile falter, even when a rude customer barked at her. There was a calmness about her, a steadiness that intrigued him, but nothing could have prepared either of them for what happened next. It was a little past midnight when the front door slammed open. The sudden chill of the night rushed in, followed by 2 masked men, one holding a pistol that glinted under the diner's dim lights. The laughter stopped, replaced by sharp gasps and silence thick with fear. The billionaire froze in his seat, his heart pounding against his ribs, not from concern for himself, but for the lives suddenly hanging in the balance. The robbers shouted demands, their voices harsh and impatient. They wanted the cash register open, wallets and phones on the tables. Customers trembled as they scrambled to comply, some crying quietly, others frozen in shock. But then his attention fell back to the waitress. Unlike everyone else, she didn't scream, didn't break down, didn't flinch. She simply placed the coffee pot she was holding on the counter, her movements deliberate and steady, as though she refused to give panic any room to breathe. Her voice, when she finally spoke, was calm and measured. She addressed the gunman not with anger or fear, but with a gentle firmness, asking him to lower his voice so the children in the corner wouldn't be more frightened. Something in her tone made even the robber hesitate, if only for a moment. Then, with remarkable composure, she began guiding the terrified customers, reassuring them softly, helping an elderly man ease into his seat when his trembling knees gave way. She collected wallets and phones carefully, passing them to the robbers without sudden movements, all the while maintaining a strange sense of order amidst chaos. The billionaire sat there, stunned. He had been in countless negotiations, high-pressure situations where billions of dollars were at stake, but he had never seen such courage displayed with such serenity. Most people broke under fear. Yet here was this young woman, a waitress earning just enough to scrape by, standing in the face of danger with a poise that made even criminals unsure of themselves. Her calmness didn't just protect herself, it shielded everyone in the diner. The robbers, unnerved by her composure, rushed through their demands and fled sooner than they might have. No one was harmed, and though wallets and phones were gone, lives were spared. The billionaire knew it could have ended far worse. When the police finally arrived, chaos gave way to relief. Customers clung to loved ones, shaking off the terror. Reporters would later swarm the diner, but in that moment, the waitress slipped back into her role quietly, pouring cups of water for those still trembling, offering tissues to wipe away tears, even cracking small jokes to lighten the heavy air. She never once drew attention to herself or claimed credit. To her, she had only done what she thought was right. The billionaire, however, could not forget what he had witnessed. As the hours passed, he found himself haunted by her resilience. He thought of all the people he encountered daily, executives, politicians, celebrities. So many of them crumbled when things didn't go their way. Yet this young woman, with so little, had stood like a pillar of strength. He needed to know more about her. Over the following days, he quietly gathered information. He learned she worked double shifts to cover her rent and her younger brother's school fees. Their parents had passed away years ago, and she had been the sole caretaker since. Despite her struggles, she never complained, never asked for handouts, and never allowed her hardships to harden her heart. She volunteered at a local shelter on her days off, donated tips to charity drives, and still managed to greet every customer with warmth. The more he discovered, the more he realized she embodied qualities that money couldn't buy. Kindness, strength, grace under fire. Then came the moment that would shock the world. Weeks later, the billionaire held a press conference, something he rarely did. The media gathered expecting announcements about mergers or investments, but instead he told the story of that night at the diner. He spoke of a young waitress whose courage and compassion had inspired him more than any business achievement ever had. And then, before cameras flashing and reporters scrambling, he announced that he would be funding a massive scholarship and community program in her name, an initiative to support thousands of young people working low-paying jobs while caring for families, providing education, housing support, and career opportunities. The program wasn't just charity. It was a movement sparked by one woman's calm in the face of danger. The story spread like wildfire. News outlets across the globe carried headlines about the billionaire whose heart had been changed not by another tycoon or politician, but by an ordinary waitress. Social media lit up with praise for her bravery. Videos of the press conference went viral, and people began sharing their own stories of resilience and kindness. The waitress herself was overwhelmed. She had never sought recognition, never dreamed her quiet strength would reach beyond the walls of the diner. When reporters asked her about it, she simply said, "I just did what I had to do." Fear doesn't solve anything. Sometimes you just have to stay calm so others can find their calm too. Her words resonated deeply with millions. She became a symbol of grace under pressure, proof that true leadership often came from unexpected places. The billionaire, for his part, continued to expand the program, ensuring it wasn't a one-time gesture but a lasting change. Together, their unlikely connection, a billionaire in search of meaning and a waitress who embodied it, sparked conversations about empathy, responsibility, and the value of recognizing the unsung heroes among us. Years later, people would look back on that night not just as a robbery gone wrong, but as the catalyst for a global shift in how kindness and courage were celebrated. The diner became something of a landmark, a place where visitors came not for the food, but for the story of the waitress, who stayed calm in a robbery and inspired a billionaire to use his wealth for something greater than himself. And though life went on, with its struggles and triumphs, one truth remained. Greatness is not always found in boardrooms or bank accounts, but often in the quiet strength of those who carry the world on their shoulders with dignity. What made the story even more compelling was that neither of them saw themselves as heroes. The waitress still worked shifts for a while, not out of necessity anymore, but because she loved the people and the place. The billionaire continued his ventures, but his perspective on success had shifted forever. When asked what the greatest investment of his life was, he no longer mentioned his companies or his fortune. He would smile softly and say, "The night I saw courage in its purest form. That changed everything." And so, the world remembered not just the billionaire's shocking move, but the quiet waitress who reminded everyone that calm in the storm can change lives far beyond the moment it is needed. Her story became proof that sometimes the smallest acts of courage ignite the biggest transformations.